the variations if you choose to do writing with it, or reading the original theme. They can read the notes, they can present them, give them music, and they can learn it by that. But I think it's very important for kids to use their ear and figure out what sounds good to them and go from there. So we're going to play the original theme of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Her rhythmic variation. Lily is a 4th grader at West Elementary. She is also a fabulous flute player. Lily's example, you can hear, which I have a tendency to find for most of the students, is that we hear the same rhythm on each note, which is totally great and wonderful. I just ask that the students make changes. If they make changes, I'm happy with it. Clearly the last one of the phrase is going to stop on one. Usually that's what happens. So you hear that the consistent rhythm on each one. Is it a change? Absolutely, so we go with it. Adams, you heard, did have different rhythms on each, not necessarily on each one, but on different notes. So you can hear that a little bit more experience, you can tell the difference between 6th grade and 4th grade. So in separating the lessons, 4th grade can do just change the rhythm and keep it consistent. Maybe if you want to make it a little bit more advanced, 6th graders, you have to use a varying rhythm on each pitch so that you have a little bit of example. From there, we take it rhythmically with the voice to the instruments. So I do have a few students who are going to share some rhythmic variations on the xylophones today. We are going to start with Miss Allie. and Lily, our sisters. Josh and Peter, can you share your rhythm,
Colin is going to share first. Colin is a fourth grader at West Elementary.
slightest little change is really, really fabulous. You can hear that Colin has a lot of experience in this very good ear to make those changes. Mr. Alex. Alex is in 5th grade, it has no here.
Bum 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 bum.
Great. Like I said before, it's a very scary thing to be able to sing like that in front of people. Not everyone shares. What I did when doing the improvisation, or excuse me, actually I guess it wasn't improvisation when they did it, but the variation, they did do it in a partnership so that they could bounce ideas off of each other, so they didn't feel like they were standing alone on something. So when they did, as a class, sing through a melodic change, they did it with a partner, or if they were brave enough to do it on their own, they did it on their own. Charlotte's been the last one to demonstrate her melodic variation using her voice. Charlotte is in 6th grade. And again, I don't focus with this lesson on writing or reading because I want it to be developed in their ears so that they can absorb something, steal it from something they've heard, use it themselves, and then pass it along to their instrument later. From here, we're going to talk about or listen to some melodic variations, and you can hear it. Some of them, they're the variations together. Some of them, you're going to hear that they add an accompaniment underneath it. I never once uttered anything about accompaniment. They just made it happen. So again, you're going to hear a lot of what their abilities are left farther than we ever imagined they can be. And you're going to hear that here. Our first melodic variation, we're going to start with this really. because they switch octaves, that's a melodic change. And I explained to them that it's not necessarily a melodic change. Yes, you're switching from low to high or high to low, but you need to be actually changing the notes. So again, a lot of it is the fear of the unknown. They're not exactly sure exactly how to make a change. That's where my job is to come in to listen and evaluate and give feedback on that. Nice job, Kevin. Charlotte. Coming up next, we have a duo. Michael Fleury and Alex. How about Bridget? Bridget is actually going with double valence today. These ladies added some harmony to it, and Bridget has a very extensive piano background, so I'm not surprised by this. Our last group now is going to be Nolan. Where'd you guys go? Nolan and Nick over on the end. Depending on time, depending on how into the lesson you want to get, it could be a strict lesson just based on theme and variation, or you can even take it further as an extension. I took the extension on for form as well. So we talked about form in music and about the order of music, A being the original theme, B being their variation, and then A being the original theme again. So depending on what you want to do with your lesson or how far you want to go into the unit or project or whatever you want to name it, you can extend it for whatever you want to do. So the gentlemen here are going to share with you their form of A B A, the original theme, when we talk about A being the original theme, just like our star, and B being the variation, and then back to the original part. from our experiences here today, they get very creative. So the students do perform in front of the class. I do record their performances, and then we haven't gotten to this step today, or yet in school, but we do record them and put it on a CD. So they have a class CD of their variations, and if they're going to check it out like a library book, take it home. If they want to upload it to their computer or burn a CD of it, they will have that forever. So that's it. I could talk about assessments and stuff like that, but we're going to end right